Most people like the change of seasons in the United States. I'm Joseph. This is Input English. Today I'm taking a walk in the park to enjoy the signs of the change of season. It's a fall day, that is an autumn day. It's cool, but not cold. I do not need a jacket. I don't need to bundle up to stay warm. The sun provides a lot of warmth, but this time of year, most of us find the warm sun comforting. In the middle of the summer, a hot sun would be difficult for us. We would want to hide from it. We would look for shade. Different parts of the United States experience different changes of season. One of my running jokes about seasons is that San Diego has no seasons. There's no weather. It's just always the same. It's always a cool breeze, not terribly hot. The sun is always out. It's always nice. And thereby it is never different. I have complained in jest that San Diego has no weather. Most parts of the United States do have distinct seasons, and some are more striking than others. In the deep south, one would not expect snow and ice, although occasionally storms will come through and snow will be seen in the deep south. In the northern part of the United States, people experience the 4 distinct seasons. In spring, the dormant plants put out new growth, new buds. They get new leaves and then flowers. And the beauty of spring is very impressive when one lives in the northern latitudes of the United States, because it is a huge change compared to what they were experiencing in the winter. After experiencing perhaps 3 months of a beautiful spring, one would expect it to get pretty hot. In most parts of the country, it gets hot in the summer. Layered on top of the season of summer with its hot weather is the school and vacation schedule that most people go through. Most schools give the children a couple of months off in the summer. And so the typical experience is when it's hot, the kids are off from school. Now, some families have to cope with that problem. It's great to have the kids home, but how do you entertain them? How do you keep them stimulated? How do you make the summer valuable to them? And many children go to summer camp in order to provide that support. During the summer, when I was growing up, summer camp was not common for me. I can only remember one time I went to a Boy Scout camp for 2 weeks in the summer. It was an extraordinary experience, but I didn't see that every year. Because the school academic calendar begins roughly the beginning of September, most of us get the impression that the year for us as students began in September, and then our academic year would end in June. This academic calendar is very different than the actual calendar where the year starts January 1st. When the children go back to school at the beginning of September, the weather is still summer-like, but within a few weeks, depending upon one's latitude, the changes that herald the beginning of autumn become apparent. I live in Northern California, just south of San Francisco, so we have 4 distinct seasons, but they're not severe. Typically, we see snow every other year at our house. It doesn't snow every year. There are some hills that one sees from this area, and those hills will get at least a dusting of snow. That is a fine layer of snow every year. It is now autumn here. The signs of autumn are all around us. The trees have a lot of color on them. 2 days ago, we had a big rainstorm, and that took a lot of leaves off the trees. The leaves that were getting ready to fall, that were nearly ready to fall, were knocked off the trees. And so there are a lot more leaves on the ground than there were before that rainstorm. This large tree behind me is a ginkgo tree. It's not native. This tree was imported and is planted widely in the United States. In the fall, the leaves turn yellow and fall off of the tree. This tree is in the process of going through that change. The leaves are turning yellow and a lot of leaves are on the ground. From here you can see that many trees are changing color, leaving no doubt that we are now in autumn. In some parts of the United States, the fall colors are much beloved. Many people travel this time of year to visit beautiful forests which are changing color so that they can experience that color change and make photographs. In the Carolinas, Virginia, and even up into New England, the fall colors are very much beloved and enjoyed. These sycamore trees will lose almost all of their leaves over the next few weeks. The appearance of this park will change and take on its winter appearance. Here we can expect a lot of rain, some windy conditions, and it will be quite cold. By early 2026, we will be ready for another spring, for sure. I would not expect to ever see snow on this ground here in this park, but we have a rule, never say never. And the other rule that goes with that is never say always. I don't expect snow here, but it's certainly a possibility, although quite unlikely. Here behind me is a tree that will not undergo any color change. A color change in this type of tree would suggest disease. This is an evergreen tree. Evergreen trees don't have leaves, they have needles. These needles take the place of leaves, but they are not leaves. Pine needles can be shed by these trees, and it is common for a tree like this to have a lot of dried brown pine needles under the tree. However, one would not expect a pine tree, a fir tree, a hemlock tree, a redwood to undergo a big color change in the fall. The various trees that lose their leaves in the fall, we call deciduous trees. Deciduous means the leaves fall off. Evergreens are not deciduous. They are not supposed to lose all their leaves in the fall. And as you recall, they don't have leaves, they have needles. This is a willow tree. Willow trees need a lot of water. It is common to see willows along creeks and at the edge of lakes. They need water. This is not a desert plant. This is a small tree, or you could call it a large bush. Willow trees can be various sizes, and they can be small enough that people would consider that they were a bush. A short distance down the walking path is this willow tree, but it's very different because the branches are curving down toward the ground. All the tips of all the branches face downward, and we call this a weeping willow tree. Weeping willow trees also need a lot of water. Most people consider them very beautiful. We have come upon an interesting feature of this park. This is a native plant trail. It is open to the public, and it's just a feature of this park. There are signs that explain what the plants represent. Here we see poison oak. Poison oak can elicit an allergic reaction in people, so if we get the oil from that plant onto our skin, we may get a rash, and it can be very unpleasant. Not everyone is allergic to poison oak or poison ivy. I don't think I've ever had an eruption of a rash from any of those plants. But this plant is labeled poison oak, and some people need to be very careful around this type of plant. This is a very pleasant find in this little park. Also, there is another artifact that I cannot explain. Right here is a wall, but it's not clear why that wall is present. It looks very old. It may be a ruin from an old building from decades ago, a building that was here before this became a park. In this same area, there's a very interesting feature. There is a telescope and a pair of binoculars, and these are available for people to use to observe wildlife in this park. This bush, with its distinctive bright orange berries, is a typical sign of autumn here. This bush is called a pyrocanthus. If you translate pyrocanthus from its Latin to English, you would call this a firethorn. I am now standing on the top of the earthwork for this dam. This lake is a man-made lake, and it is the result of this dam that was built many decades ago. In the middle of the dam, there is a mechanical section that allows the authorities to change the level of this lake. This is the area of the dam that controls the level of the lake. You may be able to hear water running over the dam spillway. Below the dam, the creek continues on its way. This door is locked. There's a chain and a padlock, and I don't have authority to go inside there. The access to this part of the dam is restricted by this locked door. So I need to turn around and go back in the opposite direction. I need to reverse my course. Looking at the height of this structure above the water, one might conclude that the water level is very low, and that would make sense. Why? In Northern California, we get most of our rain in the winter months. This lake is a vessel for storing water. The job of this lake, among other things, is to store water. It's part of the local government's plan to conserve water so that there's enough. Since we know it is going to rain and there will be a lot of water coming into the dam, it makes sense that the authorities, the management, would lower the level. They would send the water down to the next lake and make some room in this lake for the water that's coming in the next 3 months or so. It makes sense, doesn't it? With the observations of today's walk, it is very clear that it is autumn. The change in the color of the leaves, the leaves falling off the trees and the dam management lowering the water level in anticipation of the rainfall that will be coming. It's definitely autumn. Because we experience these distinct season changes every year, people in various parts of the United States change their behavior to match the season. Certainly, we would adjust our clothing. Germans would tell us that there is no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. I like that thought. In addition to adjusting our clothing, we frequently adjust our leisure activities as well. If the seasonal change is very small, only minor changes in our leisure activities would be called for. However, in some parts of the country where they experience bitter cold and snow for many months out of the year, one will see major changes in the leisure activity. This was used as an interesting explanation for a phenomenon that was observed years ago. People in the upper Midwest, for instance, Wisconsin and Minnesota, sometimes used the winter months to do their crafts indoors. Friends of mine from decades past used the bitter cold winter months to build airplanes in their garage. These projects would stretch over a period of years, but the end result was usually an airplane that they would be able to fly and enjoy for years to come. At the present time, people are enjoying tennis and pickleball, but when it is cold and raining, those tennis rackets and pickleball rackets will be put away until the spring. For me, during the winter months, I find that I read more. Since I know that cold weather and rain are coming, I am now preparing the firewood so that I can have very nice fires in the fireplace during the winter months. Cold winter months are also a great time for us musicians to put more time into practicing so that in the spring we can have even better skills playing our instruments. Another favorite pastime of the winter months is planning for the spring and the summer. This is the time of year that I think about travel and making travel plans. I don't have any firm plans at this point, but I would like to go to Spain and visit some very interesting places in Spain. I would like to use the skills in Spanish that I've developed over the past several years. With the promise of cold, winter, rainy days to come, I find myself very interested in using these cool, pleasant autumn days to get out and take a walk like this one today. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please hit that free subscribe button. It makes a big difference. I invite comments below, and if you like videos like this, be sure to click on this one next. See you soon.